Hello and welcome to Season 4 of the Sunday Podcast, presented by sportsshoes.com. I'm Ollie Lum.
And I'm Matt Seddon.
This podcast is all about elite distance running in the UK.
We're here to give you all the latest news updates around the sport,
as well as weekly interviews with athletes and coaches.
Stay up to date by following us on Instagram and X at Sunday Podcast.
And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel too, where we post athlete workout videos, shoe reviews and more.
Thanks for listening, and as always, we hope you enjoy the episode.
Okay, welcome back to another episode. Matt and I obviously here give you an intro to this week's episode. Obviously, our guest for this week, as you'll have seen for the title, is Eamonn Martin, who'll be talking through the London International Cross Country Champs. Before we get into our interview with Eamonn, though, Matt, you all good, mate? We've got a few races to review, including Sheffield BMC.
I think that's pretty much it, isn't it? I mean, obviously there was loads of county champs that this weekend just gone. We won't review every single county, to be fair, but yeah, we'll look at Sheffield BMC. Few notable performances from there. I'm all good myself. I'm gonna do a Chiltern League tomorrow, actually, mate. In my bid to toe the start line at National Cross.
Every year, that's the aim, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, be one of those guys, 50 years time. I've done 50 national crosses. Give me a t-shirt. So I'm all good. But yeah, let's delve into that BMC last weekend. I mean, I'm quite happy with myself. I predicted that. I mean, that 3K every single year on the men's side is just one of those 750s, isn't it? This year, James Gormley's turn to get the win. An athlete that was having a pretty good summer last year, and I remember talking to a few people about sort of back end of last summer, and I think he just doesn't want to. I think he had the option to join New Balance Manchester, obviously ties with James West, both at Oregon together at one point, both worked under Ben Thomas, but I think he actually doesn't want to leave Ben Thomas, from what I've heard about the guy. This was a while ago, so he could actually have a different coach. So I'm not sure who directly is working with him at the moment, but I think he is still kind of holding on to Ben Thomas. And
a lot of people do that, though, don't they? Like what we hear about Ben Thomas, he's someone we'd love to get on the pod at some point, because a lot of people we've heard about from him, even though their kind of time at Oregon is up or there's a lack of funding, they'll back his coaching over kind of going to some of these groups where they might get a bit more opportunity, you know. Like we saw it with Neil Gawley did it for a bit. Obviously, James West did it for a period.
James West was hesitant. Yep.
Yeah. So lots of good things always come out from Ben Thomas, and even kind of looking at that whole Oregon situation now, that still seems like a bit of a mess, you know.
Well, yeah, and hasn't Cooper Tier gone crawling back? Cole Hocker. Obviously, Cole Hocker never left, but I think he is a very impactful coach on these men and women that he's worked with over the years. So I'll be interested to see that what Gormley's up to. I also think he had opportunity to get quite a well-paid job and stuff as well. But I might be starting rumors there. But I think that's reminiscing some conversations I had back in the last year. But Wheeler brothers, second and third, 754 for them, not bad. James Young 755, Tom Keane 756, Copeland. That's a name that we'll be watching quite closely through this indoor campaign. Can he get back to some strong 1500 meter form? Yeah, he's someone you're looking at that Europeans thinking, 2 years ago, he was kind of the up and comer, the man that you were like, whoa, what can he do? So it will be good to see him get back to, his very best. So nice to see him dip under 8 minutes. And sure, I think if you're running low 750s in Sheffield first week of January or after a festive Christmas period, and you haven't, the weather's just torrid this time of year, I think that's pretty strong running from those gents. Big Bro won the B race. Me and you were joking a little bit off air. Like, I think BMC being BMC, to be fair to BMC, I think his steeple was faster than his flat 3K last year. So they've probably just gone on his para 10 and gone like, where's his 3K time? But yeah, common sense tells you if you run an 8:21 steeple, like, you're probably capable of a sub 8 minutes. Anyway, he got the win, so that's a nice little confidence boost for him in the B race. Jake Smith, 8:12, seems to be coming back to form as well. On the women's side, Lum, This was a performance. Ellie Leather runs 8:54 for the win, and based over in America, this was quite an encouraging performance. We could have a new kind of mid-distance star over the next year or two, because to sort of front run that and win convincingly. I seem to remember, was it Nuttall last year ran similar, maybe a fraction quicker, and then obviously went out and went and ran like 8:40 something. And so again for Leather, she's going to go back to that NCAA system and probably run some pretty sharp times. So strong running from her.
Yeah, that's it. It's always interesting seeing the ones that are kind of going through the NCAA system who maybe weren't massive names before they went out there, because they almost kind of go kind of quietly through the system. They come back, do a couple of races here, and everyone's like, oh, wow, we've actually got kind of a talent who's kind of out there who's a bit under the radar. Like you mentioned, obviously the Wheeler twins, and Gormley as well in that men's A race. They're people who come back to UK and everyone's realised, oh, actually they've become quite handy in the past couple of years while they've been away. So I think the proof though for everyone is what they do then after these races. Like you mentioned, it's a Sheffield BMC in January. It's kind of blowing the cobwebs off for some. So it's what athletes can do over the next couple of months to really cement themselves and start giving themselves a platform for the season. But obviously, at the end of the day, it all comes down
Mm.
to outdoors, really, doesn't it?
Mm. Yeah, from what I've seen from Leather is I think she's the same group as I think I was saying back to the NCAA. So I mean, kind of back to America. Um, where I think she's based in the same group as the old Fog Dog, Adam Fogg, that Baltimore
Oh,
Under
okay.
Armour
Yeah, yeah.
distance project. I think, not 100%. So I think she's based out there. So it's good to see that she is, in a professional setup, and clearly kind of got the platform to push on. And I think, over the next few years, she is someone to watch out for because she's fortunate enough to be involved in a good setup and a good group right now. And then just quickly, I thought the women's 1500 was a pretty high standard as well. Georgia Bell 4:10, Georgie Hartigan 4:15. Like, Bell running 4:10, get her in a quicker race with faster runners. Maybe she'll get on a European circuit. Maybe she'll head over to America, but she's got to be getting close to that kind of 4:5, 4:6 mark, which is going to knock her right on the door well indoors. So,
Yeah. What
I think she's not far off a GB spot right now.
and what I find interesting about kind of this Georgia Bell kind of story is that I think almost like having a comeback, if you like, when you're racing sort of the longer distances, or maybe being like a shorter distance athlete and then coming back and doing sort of a decent 10K or a decent marathon, I think is a lot easier than coming back in and getting back on that sort of 800, 1500 train, because I think it definitely is like
Yeah.
a young woman's or a young man's game in those, or the athletes that do it at the kind of towards like their 30s are the ones who have like consistently been at the top level each year and every year and have managed to crank out that training. So being able to come back and do it after quite a few years out of racing, sort of like your high levels in the sport, is super impressive.
It's interesting because I think you're right. She did take that approach. She did come back and first, I think we saw her in a few low-key road 5Ks and we were like, oh, Georgia Bell. Like, for those of you who don't know, previous English schools champion, I'm pretty sure, like, was just an animal in that kind of under 17, under 15, under 17 bracket. Shout out Steve Mann. He sort of coached her over at Ealing Southall Middlesex. But yeah, I just remember her and Georgia Peel, right? Those two used to just do crazy things on the English schools level. And she's clearly I think she did end up in America studying out there, California somewhere, but did drop off the radar as far as we know on the UK scene. And then, came back, saw her at a few road 5K. Then we saw her at a track 5K. I think she did Battersea, one of those races. And then you think, okay, she's starting to run. I think she's starting to run sub 16 minutes. And you're like, oof, or around that 16-minute mark. But then, she seems to be working her way back down to especially the 1500. We might even see her over the 800 in the summer. Looks like she's working with Trevor Painter. But so an exciting, another name to kind of add to the hat. But yeah, so that pretty much wraps up Sheffield BMC Lum. Like I said, county champs went down. Not too much went down. Valencia 10K is going to go ahead. We won't talk about that too much because again, by the time you guys listen, that'll be done and dusted. But we expect it to be very fast. We've got a whole host of Brits out there, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they can run. I think we're going to see a few world champ standards as well. Kip Limo's doing it. So we could see something ridiculous, 26, 30 odd, as we often see in these road 10Ks. And yeah, that's there's a few other events which we'll preview on the back end of this episode. But let's get to this talking to Eamonn Martin, because one big event, one new event, London International Cross Country, is in a week's time, and that's why we've got him on to really break down this event. He was race director, project manager, which I think he wanted to be referred to. So let's get to it.
Well, first off, Eamonn, just welcome to the podcast. Great to have you on. Do you mind just giving us a rundown of sort of your job role and titles within British Athletics, England Athletics at the moment? Because I know you've got a few.
Okay, well, I retired from, let's say, my pay job about 3 years ago, and I've just got more involved in athletics. I was the England cross-country team manager for the senior men since 2001. I've kept that going. I'm also secretary of the England Cross Country Association. So very quickly, what that is the cross country arm of England. England Athletics just let the English Cross Country Association get on with it. So we run the national cross country, the relays at Mansfield. They're very popular, like about 1,100 teams enter that for the relays. And so that's my role in the English Cross Country Association. More recently, I've been team manager for Great Britain. For the last 2 European cross-country championships, I've been the senior men's team manager. I was the team lead to take the team to the World Cross Country in Australia last February. I get involved on the UK, let's say the UK Endurance Committee, and I'm part of the UK cross-country working group for British Athletics. So that's a kind of background, how that has grown in the last 3 years, really, since I've retired.
Fantastic. Fingers in many pies in the endurance cross country circuit and world, I guess.
Yeah, but they do all. There's a lot of those dovetail into one another. You know, the synergy between that is good. You know, endurance, cross country. I have a cross country background, but clearly my first love was on the track. And then towards the end of the days when I thought I wasn't going to improve on the track, I personally turned and ran a few marathons, a couple of good ones, because I did win London Marathon in '93 and Chicago in '95. So got quite a range really of kind of history in endurance running.
No, I think we'd love to get you back on to talk just about your career, to be honest, because like you said, yeah, plenty of credentials there to discuss. But, you know, we've got you on. We're a week out pretty much from the London International Cross Country Champs. Now, this is a brand new event, and an event, Eamonn, which I think fans have wanted for a while. I mean, you've obviously worked with the English Cross Country Association, and I guess people have been asking for this for a few years, whether it was to be at the National Cross, and was, you know, the World Cross being kind of pushed back and changed and tweaked. Was this just the perfect opportunity this year to get something like this off the ground?
Well, first of all, I think I needed to have a base for the event. And by a base for the event, I don't actually mean Parliament Hill, although that is a fabulous base to have it at. But it was more, I spoke with from the winter before, I started speaking with the home countries, because I felt that the cross-country season was a little bit disjointed, and the home nations tried to do certain things on their own, understanding that, because it's almost like, we need to do our bit. And I was speaking to Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, saying, look, what about if we could sort of work together a bit more? Now, there is a home countries international, England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. We also usually add in the English areas, because the North, the Midlands, the South, and the East. Don't forget, the North, Midlands, and South are bigger than Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, so we must remember the size of those areas. And quite often it usually rotates around the countries. Now, last season it was in England, but I said, look, does it need to rotate around the countries? Because Scotland have to pay for England, Northern Ireland, and Wales come in, and Wales vice versa. If we held it at a venue and just make your way to the venue and the whole thing is laid on for you, how would that appeal somewhere like Parliament Hill? And they were all very, very good at saying, yes, that would really appeal. I didn't want the Home Countries International to die. The Home Countries International on its own, I don't think is good enough. It's not big enough. It's not exciting enough on its own. But if it can be held within another meeting. So the UK Cross Challenge series, the English one was in Milton Keynes, and I know the guy there, and he said, "No, I mean, I'm really happy for you to take that." So I did all the things to take that. January the 20th came up literally because talking to UK Athletics, they said that was the perfect day for the original day for the World Cross Country, which was February the 10th, three weeks later, and that subsequently changed. Croatia couldn't afford it, and World Athletics had moved it to Serbia, and they said the end of March. So it doesn't work in its original form, being the full trial 3 weeks before the World Cross. But there is still things riding on it. But the main thing was I wanted to have an all-encompassing, exciting race, and going on my many visits to European races, both as an athlete and as a team manager for England. Races in Belgium, places like Belgium, for example, relatively short laps, a bit of a festival. You know, there's usually food being cooked, beer being sold. People pay to get in, something like €8 to get in and watch it. They fence it all off. And it's almost like one of those things where when you have to pay to get in, people appreciate it more. With cross country, you walk into a field and watch it. I don't think there's been that same sort of, realisation that this is a great sport. And then looking back to when the cross country was held at Edinburgh, the International Cross Country Edinburgh, which was Great Britain versus USA and a European select. That was a fabulous meeting up there in Edinburgh. That stopped a few years ago, and there was a little bit of that which I wanted to get back. I knew all of this, what I'm saying, would be kind of impossible in year one, but I've ended up with a UK Cross Challenge series. I've ended up with at least the first home now in the senior and women's race, men's senior race and women's senior race will get selected for the World Cross Country GB. I've got the 4K short course British universities known as Bucks trials for men and women. First two in those will get selected for the Universities World Cross Country Championships in Oman in February, and also in the senior men's long course races, they are looking at selecting Bucks, the British University, looking at selecting athletes for that as well. So suddenly there's quite a lot riding on it. It becomes quite a good event. So I think for year one and for the pilot, I'm really happy with what I've got. I'd love it to have been the full trial, but I'm really happy what I've got.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like selling the event, you're saying all the right things. You're talking about Edinburgh Cross Country. You're talking about Bucks. You mentioned you've got kind of work with Mansfield. You're talking about all the stuff in Belgium. And I think these are the things that the fans of kind of British cross country have been crying out for a long time. And to try and get all these things into one event, it's just brilliant. Let's just go back to that idea of kind of the short loop, because I think for me, that's probably the main thing that can really help sell this event is people actually being able to see what's happening throughout the whole race.
Yeah, exactly. So and the thing was when I suppose I proposed this originally, which was I started talking about it probably December, what was that, 13 months ago, shall we say? And I got really positive vibes of key people. I spoke to Chris Jones, who kind of heads up the endurance for UK Athletics. He really thinks we need it, and it's missing in the calendar. I was at the English National Cross Country last February, and Paul Maskell, who is the manager of the Heath, he's there. We've given him a sort of honorary membership. He was there at the National, and he gets really heavily involved. His team put together everything on the ground for the National Cross Country, and I proposed it. And I suppose the support and the excitement from Paul was fantastic. And I thought, well, I've only really spoken in detail to two people, and their enthusiasm and excitement and positivity around it was brilliant. And they were, within reason, two very key people. So Paul, I thought, wow, if I've got the person who runs the Heath, that's brilliant. And it's developed from there. Now, when I first went over there, the guys who really organising the course, Highgate Harrier members, great, couple of great guys, stalwarts in the sport, been in it for years, Martin Howard and Martin Holland. And they said, okay, they talked about the course. And I said, no, that's not what I want. I want a really tight course. I want it. And he said, oh, wow, okay. That sounds interesting. That sounds great. And we walked what was a proposed course. And to be fair, the course as it is for race day is not much different to that original walk. All very close and compact, can see, I would say, 75% of it from one position. If you strategically stand in the right position, you can almost see all of it. But of course, the idea was to have a big screen so that you can see all of it. And that's exactly what we've got. So like the 10K is 5 laps, for example, 8K 4 laps, 6K 3 laps, obviously, based on 2 kilometre laps. Big screen will allow you to see everything there. It's being filmed, so it's going out on it's British Athletics YouTube channel. It'll be going out, and I've subsequently been speaking with, obviously, the filming company 24/7 and FR Systems, who are doing the results, because I would like, after every lap, I'm saying it'd be great, particularly in the team events, because the junior men's, junior women's, senior men's, senior women's are UK cross challenges, and they are the home countries and area matches. So there's effectively 8 teams competing in that. And it'd be great to have, I know people can say like they can see who's winning, but sometimes it's more difficult to add up the team scores, but they will go on the board after each lap. So there will be an update on the team positions, just a little bit more information, a little bit more, I suppose, spectator involvement. Oh, great, look at, the South are winning, and all the people from the South get excited. The North are winning, and the people from the North get excited. It's incredible, just creating a little bit more, I suppose, competitiveness from areas and countries within a race. That just adds to the atmosphere. So the short lap was really, really important. Of course, one of the things that I was keen on was that we don't have, a load of slow runners getting lapped and spoiling that spectacle. That's always a difficulty. The 4K, the British University Trials, an open race, that won't happen. And I've tried to encourage people who want to run, who may not be of the quality of the 10K, to run in a 4K, because you don't have to do too much maths to work out they won't get lapped in the 4K. They'll be starting the second lap just before the finishers come in, if they're not particularly fast. So just on TV, on it doesn't look so good. It doesn't look so good when you're there and you've got a lot of the leaders passing the tail enders. So it's really difficult in our sport. The balance is everyone can run. So I'm trying to point the lesser runners to the 4K and not cause the issues. So getting crowd involvement when a lot of the course as well, you run, you come towards a finish on the lap, you do a U-turn and you go back out in parallel to where you come back for a large part of it. Through the tent that you run through, you go both ways through the tent.
Wow!
I'm hoping to get spectators both sides of the course in the tent. It's going to be really nice and tight, and those tents just create a lot of noise, just to really add to the atmosphere. If get people on the course ringing a few cowbells, and which seem to be coming into cross country now from mountain running, and if what with the public address system, we have got a commentator. There are some all-time greats from history, from cross-country there. People like Dave Bedford, Dave Clark, Julian Gota, Wendy Sly, Liz Yelling, Louise Damon, Andy Vernon, Steve Vernon, myself. Of course, I'm going to be busy all day, but myself. And I want to get interviews with these people over the public address during the day to enhance, the event, not take away from it. So getting the timing of those interviews will be important.
It's fantastic, mate. I mean, I'm getting excited. I can see your excitement. I'm sitting here sort of bubbling away as everything you sort of add, into the cauldron of what's going to happen in a week's time. Just for the ultra fans, I guess, and those who know Parley Hill, can you talk us through the 2K loop? Where will it start and finish?
Well, it starts at the Lido. In fact, anyone who's been to the races at Parliament Hill historically, the start is pretty much the same place. The finish is pretty much the same place. That's where it all changes, though. So you run up from the Lido, and then you actually go left. You don't go right up to the top of the hill. You go left, and you kind of go parallel past the finish and go out. And the way that people normally come down from, let's say, the top corner at Parliament Hill, you go back up towards that corner, and then you turn right across the top of the field, which is kind of where they almost go when they join the big laps up at the Southerns or the National. And then you disappear out just for a little while in a sort of not quite a wooded area, but into the trees. And then you come back and you run back along the top and come back down from the top corner towards the finish. And you do a U-turn to go back out on the lap. The U-turn in my running days, the U-turns would be like, oh, what have they got a U-turn? Now it's called a feature. So that feature is to slow the runners down right in front of the busy area of the crowd. I know it sounds strange, but I thought cross country is about the rhythm getting broken, unlike road and track. So breaking the rhythm with a U-turn to go back out. When I told the guy, I said, oh, you want a U-turn there? I said, I do actually, because it's going to be where the main crowd is. They're going to slow down, and it's going to be just add to the fact that they're all slowing down, going around the U-turn and back out again. So yeah, it's a lovely small loop with lots of it is visible, which I think is the key bit. The national cross country, when that's run, that is a massive event. So many runners in there. They have a massive loop now because so many people get lapped. I understand because I'm involved in it and it's the right thing to do, but I wanted to do something where I could really get spectator involvement. Like when they go out onto a massive loop and you can't see them, you're gonna talk, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. But here, there's not gonna, the laps are going to be, let's say, circa 6 minutes, and they're only going to disappear for maybe 1.5 minutes of that 6 minutes, and you can watch it on the big screen. So just it's a bit like being at at an athletics meeting on the track. You don't really miss anything. That's the idea of this. So trying to keep total engagement on the races.
Yeah, it sounds brilliant, and obviously we're very much looking forward to seeing how it unfolds next weekend. One thing I wanted to ask you though is, why has it almost taken so long for these sorts of changes to come into cross country? Because you mentioned things like Edinburgh before that stopped quite a few years ago now, and it's almost like nothing's replaced that. And even then, when that was happening, it was sort of one event maybe a year, kind of at the elite end, was happening that was truly kind of an elite cross country race.
Yeah, it could be a complicated answer, but I don't think it is. I think really just trying to get the funding to put on a bit more. I mean, this is a pilot year for this one. So if everything goes very, very well, and trust me, there's so much time, effort and energy from myself, which I've loved doing up to now. Like you say, I'm very excited about the event. I think maybe any stresses might come next week, but I'm trying to avoid too much in advance. So I'm feeling really good about it. But I think it comes down to financing it. And we get a little bit, we all do it in all walks of life. We get a little bit comfortable. And I think we've got a little bit comfortable with the cross country and how they're run. And to a certain degree, I think we need to give an enormous amount of credit to Ben Pochi and his idea of the night of 10,000s, because it's easy now because it's been going, I think this will be year 11 coming up for that, and started with humble beginnings, shall we say, probably more humble in all fairness than the London International Cross Country that's coming on the 20th. That's probably starting at a slightly higher position. But who would have thought that 10,000 metre running on a track could be made to be so exciting? They were stuck away at places where the weather wasn't good, maybe the atmosphere maybe wasn't good, and now we've got that going on. So you can change things, but you do need to be ready for change. And then as they change, you just need support. Support usually means, look, to put a big screen in, to have a fantastic VIP tent here, to run through a tent, to do this, to have filming. All of this adds cost to the event. But people, what you want them to do is to go away and say, wow, that was fantastic. And then, you say that was the inaugural year one, we're looking at putting more on. And I just don't think there's the funding. And sometimes, the effort, it's a bit unfair. It costs a lot of effort to put on an event, but I think it takes that much more to get more people involved and kind of, someone said to me, oh, you're a race director. I mean, I'll tell you now, it's a project management role. I've been project managing this. That's what the race director is. All of it, making everything happen, because of all the things that need to come together, engaging with people, speaking with them, engaging with them. And clearly I had some ideas. There's people out there with way better ideas, certainly in pockets of areas, and using their knowledge to add to my ideas has been great. There'll be plenty more ideas after this event where we say, right, this is what we could do better, and we will. So I think that's what it is really. It's just getting enough funding and ideas. But like anything else, if nothing else, and the race at Palmer Hill kick starts, maybe, a step up and an improvement in cross country. Generally, that'll be fantastic. It's purely from an endurance point of view. It is a fantastic sport. It is something which really does lead to extra additional endurance on the track. It's not perfect running on a road. There's kind of uneven ground, hills, slopes, divots, whatever you like to say. And I think that strengthens the endurance, strengthens up the body in terms of the physiology of the body, and of course, you dig in to go up a hill. Runners know that it's harder. Heart rate goes up. You go over the other side. All these things and variation in course, which make variations to the body's response, I think is fantastic. And what I don't want to see happen is the cross country season gets shortened too much when everyone has the chance to go on the roads indoors in the early part of the new year. And I think if we can stick with some really exciting cross country races, then I think we've got half a chance of keeping it going a bit longer, which I think will be a benefit to the runners when they come to racing on the tracks and the roads, etc. I think that will be a benefit.
100%. We are starting to see that, aren't we? Cross country. By the time Eurocross, I mean, you've been team managing there. I'm sure you know a lot of those athletes who are at Eurocross. They are, they're off their altitude. They're getting ready for indoors, road and track already. Starting to think about that, even though it's January, February time. But there are going to be some big names there, so we can look forward to that. We'll do a bit of a more in-depth preview after chatting with yourself. But you've mentioned you want the event to grow. Do you want this to be a global event? We've seen Britain play host to some fantastic championships over the years, and we've shown we can really attract global kind of interest. Is that where you kind of want it to go, similar to that of Highgate?
Yeah, it is. It's exactly my vision. So what could my vision be? My vision is, could we hold the European Cross Country Championships there sometime in the future? I wouldn't want to do that until we've really got it established. It's certainly big enough. And for those who don't know, Parliament Hill has got a World Athletics Heritage Award, got it a few years ago, which is effectively almost the home of cross-country running. And many people in Britain do still look at Parliament Hill as the home of cross-country running. I deliberately, I've called it the London International Cross Country. Clearly, I've got England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So that means it fits the bill. I didn't want to have a name change. I didn't want to go year two. Oh, what am I going to call it this year? First year, it's called British this, UK Cross Country Trial. So I was really keen on it having a name which stood. I wanted London because no matter where you are, exactly what you said, Matt, on the globe, it's called the London International Cross Country. So that's probably in London then. So that's what I wanted. I didn't want anyone to have any false impression. What's this name? Where's that held? So I thought London International Cross Country, very, very simple, but it tells you what it's about and where it is. So going forward, that is exactly the idea to globally. I mean, look, that race at Edinburgh was a brilliant race. It was a GB team selected versus a USA versus a European select. Just simply going back to that, of course, I'm really keen for it to stay England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and it can stay the area match, all thrown into one. If there's GB teams on top of that, and there are European select teams, or even European teams from the easy places to reach from Europe, because it's very easy from France, Belgium. Eurostar comes into London. That's an easy. It's quicker than flying because you just Paris straight into London. So there's a lot of things going for that. And then, of course, just working on the wider global aspect of it. Yes, absolutely is what I would love to do. I wouldn't want it to the principles of it to change too much. Like a short course is what I want, because I want really spectator engagement. And just imagine if people went along there in the future, in their thousands, because it was that kind of event where they just stacked it out with spectators. So on a slightly unique thing, I have I've applied and got a license. I've got a beer tent there. I just felt, you go to these places, you go to watch football on a Saturday afternoon, rugby on a Saturday afternoon, cricket in the summer. You can go and get yourself an alcoholic drink. It's standard. There's nothing wrong with it. So I've got a beer tent there for the general public. Clearly it'll be winter. You can get mulled wine and stuff like that. But the point was, lots more of this, and you can see the race from the beer tent. You can look at it whilst you're queuing up or getting one. So I wanted to really trying to think of everything spectator engagement wise, and clearly there'll be a few tweaks and adjustments afterwards. But that's what I want, a global event, and I want it to be, just that atmosphere where everyone says that was actually just a really fantastic day out.
Is it just on that quickly? You talked about it being fenced off. I guess you might be a few years away from that. Is it? It's going to be free to watch, right?
Absolutely free to watch, and probably going forward, absolutely free to watch. That isn't. I'm saying that Belgium, for example, have their own way of doing it. As in, they've got something which is quite well established called the Cross Cup. The Cross Cup races are a series of races. They're a bit like the UK Cross Challenge. They're much more. I guess they're much more established, and their top athletes are all contracted to run in so many. And it discourages their top athletes going abroad to run because their Belgium Cross Cup is such a good race for them. So I never really want to think about fencing off. I think that'll just become logistically, it'll be logistically something I don't want. I don't think I'll be able to do that in Parliament Hill because I don't think the local resident committee would want the race to go ahead if it was fenced off. So I don't think that's ever going to be the case. But if people come along and they just enjoy themselves and they get some food and have a beer or some mulled wine and stuff like that, that's worth a lot if you can just get more and more people along. And that it'll be a starter this year. It's like most things. Year one, you're getting the name out there, you're getting the idea out there. Year two, there's a lot of time for people to say, I'm definitely going to that. I'm sure people put the night of 10,000s. Well, I say I'm sure people put the night of 10,000s into their calendar quite early. Well, they do, because I have. So they do put the night of 10,000s PB in their diary, because I've done it myself to make sure that, okay, I know where that is. I'll organise stuff so I'm there for the night of 10,000s. That's what I want it to be when we come up with a date. I don't need to keep this same date. It was driven by the original World Cross Country date. So that's something to think about for year two, is the date as well. Is there a better date? And the better date, I'm trying to dovetail in with all the things that go on around cross country, and not, if you like, not bump into it. I know that the area races, the North South Midlands, are a week later, but it was driven by the World Cross Country date and being a trial. So I'll have to look at the calendar and see what the best date is. But yes, I would love it to be international race and going more global. And of course, I guess after year one, the publicity can grow for year two once we choose a date.
Yeah, brilliant. Just before we finish then, Eamonn, if you could pick one thing that you're most looking forward to about next weekend, what would it be?
Right. Okay. I'm looking forward to. I am looking forward to the fact that there's a kind of unique short lap, and so the 10K race will be 5 laps, both the men's and the women's. I'm just looking forward to seeing how quick that appears to go when you're watching it. I mean, 10K is 10K, but when you're doing multiple laps on a cross country, and when they come back into where the main crowd will be, and just really kind of feeling the atmosphere. There's a lot of people in the sport know me because I've been around a long time. I know that when as I'm floating around and walking from A to B and doing this, because I have got team manager duties next week. I am England team manager for the day, so I've got my senior men's team to look after. So I've got someone who's effectively helping me out with race director bit on the day. So I'm just looking. So when they run those races, just feeling the atmosphere, what's working, what isn't working, So almost feeling it when I'm there. Everyone's loving it. The screen is showing this. There's lots of results are going up, positions are going up. There's interaction. People are just enjoying themselves. And if I've no doubt hundreds of people who in the sport I know will make comments to me. I'm sure there'll be, I didn't like. That's great. This is great. I didn't like that. I'm sure I'm going to get the full range. But I think most people will probably say the idea, the effort, all that stuff. Just feeling that on the day, because I know it'll be good racing, because there's some really great runners from the UK in it. So I'm looking at feeling the atmosphere.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think I just wanted to ask as well, what stopped it from from being solely a world cross country trial? Because originally there were kind of rumors that it would just be, you know, potentially a little bit like Liverpool and how that acts as a European cross country trial. What stopped that? Was it literally just the change of date? But then also, do you think going forward, sort of working with British Athletics, but not directly, so it's a little bit more of an independent event, it won't hold you back as much?
No, I don't think so. I think you have to be, in today's world, you can do things exactly as you have done for many, many, many years, or you can do things differently and bring a bit more time. So that is what this is primarily. What it was up until September, it was the World Cross Country Trial. Then World Athletics made a statement that Croatia could not afford to hold it on February the 10th. We're waiting with bated breath. An outcome the 30th of March. Nice. 7 weeks later, actually 10 weeks after the trial. Well, even I know, because I'm a qualified coach, and 2019 I coached the winner of the UK cross country trial before the World Cross Country in Denmark. So I know that wouldn't work 10 weeks. So the 3-week gap had become 10. So the policy had to be rewritten by UK Athletics, and they actually have kindly said the first person home in the senior. The reason being for that is they know that a senior athlete could probably do their final preparations. Maybe they might want to go warm weather training or altitude training and prepare for that. And they will have to show some form a few weeks before the World Cross. But it essentially gives them, I can go and prepare in whichever way I want. And if preparing means doing this road race or going and doing an indoor race, that's fine, because they're senior athletes. You can't have the same confidence of the junior athletes. That's why there is no junior qualification in this event. So yeah, when I got the notification, it was no one's fault. Well, you could argue it was Croatia's fault, but what I mean was, it was a bit like, okay, what can I do to keep this on a positive, if you like, approach? And getting the British universities involved has been absolutely fantastic, because that's really added a little bit more kudos back into the event. So I think, considering the World Cross Country got pulled, as it were, I think it's still got a lot riding on it. Obviously, the home countries international is a UK cross challenge round, so the top athletes will get points. And notwithstanding that, what I've done is I'd agreed it from the start. For the senior races, I mean, the prize money is 2,000, 1,500, 1, 2, 3. That was something I wanted, because when it becomes an international race outside of the UK, if it is still a UK cross challenge, there's UK cross challenge prize money, but I wanted independent prize money, so people knew that there was a reasonable prize list to have from this race. So in the senior races, that is the prize for the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So on a good day, if a British athlete, let's say senior man, senior woman, wins the race, wins the prize money, wins the UK Cross Challenge prize money, gets selected for the World Cross Country, and if they were a student, they could get selected for the World University. So someone could have a brilliant day.
I think that is, you talking about how this one event is actually important for so many different factors, like British universities, World Cross, home nations. It's all in one. Do you think that is going to be the way races go over the next, 5, 10 years? We can piggyback off great events, because otherwise we do tend to have a little bit more of a watered down fixture list.
Absolutely spot on, Matt. Okay, so sorry, I'm not big on cliches. I normally say that, but there's a cross country over there, and there's the one man and his dog watching it. The old cliche. If you take, for example, the Celtic cross country, I've spoken to the Celtic nations, and they think, we're struggling to keep that going. And I've said to them, why couldn't the Celtic cross be at Parliament Hill in this race? You've got Northern Ireland and Wales and Scotland. If you added in the Republic of Ireland, just because the Celtic cross country champs is in England, the principle is it just adds to this event. It becomes even better. So going forward, I mean, clearly that's not something that's agreed, but I'm saying, if it was all laid on and you said, we've got the home countries international and the Celtic, it's a UK cross challenge. And if Republic of Ireland don't participate in the home countries, but they're in the Celtic, England participate in the home countries, but not in the Celtic, the Republic of Ireland wouldn't be part of the UK Cross Challenge, but that doesn't matter. Races within races, bigger races, higher quality races, more exciting races. So that's how I'm looking at things going forward, that we need to, if you like, think outside the usual box. And what can we do? Don't say we can't do it. UK cross country trial, that must be a closed trial. Historically, there's been a lot of those UK cross country trials have been closed to UK athletes. But why? Why? Let's think differently, and let's think that they're going to actually benefit from racing people from outside. I mean, I just think of the Celtic, and at the moment, Ireland really, really strong, and they did great in the Europeans, and I think they just having them in it would add a lot of flavour to the event. So going forward, it's a bit like, yes, higher quality events and less kind of filtered out. It also does give you space in the calendar. People talk about training weekends with the, I've been speaking about this, getting the top athletes on the training weekend. You almost struggle to find weekends for training weekends.
Yeah.
If we could condense the events a little bit, we know what we've got. The National Cross Country is a very established event. You've got the area races. If we can condense it so there are more gaps, the idea wouldn't necessarily just to fill the gaps with other races. It might be, do you know what? Let's have a training weekend somewhere in the country from a Friday to a Monday or something like that, with all the top athletes that can make it, or even the next level down, who are the future, which we need to look at as well. So there are opportunities which it leads to, which benefits everyone.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point, and then definitely, like, for the younger athletes at the moment, it seems like there's a race for them every single weekend. So we're looking forward to obviously next weekend and what the event holds in the future. So Eamonn, thanks so much for talking to us, and we wish you all the best next weekend.
Yeah, thank you both, Ollie and Matt. It's been great. Really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
Okay, great to hear from Eamonn Martin there in that short interview of him, and definitely with someone we'd love to get back on the podcast in future to speak about his own running career as well. But I think, Matt, for me anyway, just the kind of the passion in which he spoke about this event and the excitement, I think you mentioned as well in the interview, the excitement kind of we felt from him going into next week is really, really promising, because if the race director, the project manager is that excited, I'm sure good things are going to come from it. And the things he's talking about, the events he's comparing it to, I'm hoping it lives up to the bill, because it seems like something really special is cooking, and definitely something that we can look forward to in years to come for sure.
Dead right, man. I think he's got big visions for it. He doesn't just want it to continue to be a cross challenge and a home nations. Obviously, it's a little bit more than that actually already, with the Bucks qualification system. But and I think me and you, our first question was, why so long? Why is it taking so long? But anyway, it's happened. Finally, the running world catches up eventually. I feel like the running world is always about 10 years behind what people start talking about. But I think this could, make a big difference to the UK cross country scene. So does Eamonn, in a sense that, he's right. We put Liverpool in our diaries, we put National Cross in our diaries, and look, everything else is there. But I think is slowly getting a little bit more watered down as the years go by. And, he made an interesting point. We actually spoke to him off air, and after the European Cross where he was team managing, people were sort of saying to him, like, we are, Britain, yes, you win all the junior events, but what a shame that you don't win the men's event. And his response was quite interesting. He turned around and he said, well, hold on. He said, we've got runners to win that event, but they're not here. And, why aren't they here? And it's because they're off doing other things which they see as more valuable, like, trying to qualify for Paris in the marathon. Emil Caress, second last year, he wasn't there. Mohammed ran a marathon a week before Eurocross. He wasn't there. Mark Scott, I guess he did Liverpool, was unfit, but Jack Rowe chose not to be there. Like, Hugo Milner was fourth, so we probably had a team that could have won that senior men's race, but they weren't there because they were seeking avenues in the marathon. And I think events like this, a global, it's encouraging that he wanted the event to become global. because I think that is gonna, big names are gonna start to put this event in their calendar, and come over, and in January, like we used to have that Edinburgh Cross, that was a fantastic event, and I actually think this Parley Hill one could be bigger because, without sounding biased to London, it's in London and there's just more attraction. It's as simple as that. Like, Diamond League sells out. Highgate does so well, and Highgate does so well, and I'm sure like 50% of the reason it does so well, the location. And I think that's why this event is going to be a success over the next few years, or at least I hope it is. But yeah, so I mean, what else could we break down from that, Lum? I mean, one thing which confused me was the Bucks situation, considering Bucks is in 2 weeks after it.
So basically, I think from my understanding, anyway, it's basically for the World Unis Cross Champs, whereas previously the qualification for that has been in Bucks itself. Now, like the trials for the World Uni Cross are here instead of in Bucks itself, which I think makes sense in some aspects, as sometimes you'd get athletes who. What's that?
Does it make sense? Like if you've got Bucks 2 weeks after?
From the I was going to say, from the point of like, you get some athletes who probably would make that team who wouldn't do Bucks Cross because it's not the caliber of event that they would do. If that makes sense, because you don't have to. You just have to be at university to qualify for World Uni Cross, but it doesn't necessarily mean you'd run for your uni at Bucks, for example.
Kind of see what it's saying. I think
a bit of both,
on the world selection, on the World Uni selection policy, but I think as well, from memory, you can actually be a year removed from university.
Yeah, you can.
I think so. Or there's like a window you can be out of university and you can still run at the World Uni Games. So yeah, maybe it accommodates those people as well. Originally, I was like, this makes no sense because you've literally got British University Championships taking place. Surely just pick off of that. But yeah, I guess, there is a reason for it.
I think maybe actually this year as well. I think the World Uni Cross, is actually earlier. So I don't think Bucks would actually like tie in with the timings to qualify.
Okay, well, the deadline of having to submit a team, that might make
sense.
So
I think World Uni Cross is in February. So
right, okay, so maybe World Uni Cross is like the week or so. In fact, I might just Google that now. Yeah, I'm not that clued up on the World University Cross.
But that's my understanding anyway. So I think there's obviously some positives and potentially negatives behind that. But I think any way that you make the event more exciting with more on the line is a good thing. I don't think it would detract from Bucks too much, like Bucks as the event itself, because I think that is kind of famous and kind of popular for different reasons, like outside of World Uni Cross. I think it's much more about actually kind of which university wins, and just being like around your teammates and that sort of thing, rather than World Uni Cross,
Yeah, that's right. I just looked. You're right. It's 17th of Feb. In Muscat, Oman. So there we go. So yeah, maybe you're right. That just kind of clashes with the dates. That would make a lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, finally as well, this 2K loop, I mean, that's a change that we've been crying out for. And I guess it's a change that is very hard to actually put into place. When we look at our famous cross-country races, Liverpool is joint with a league match. So, even the 3K laps, I think, are too small in that essence because, our top guys are lapping those boys on lap 2. So you can't really have Liverpool being a 1.5 2K circuit. And again, National Cross, absolutely no chance you could do that, or kind of your regional champs as well. So I think in hindsight, it's probably one of the few races where you could, bring that 2K loop in. And I hope it stays. And I actually hope it catches on in other events as well. Eamonn said, lap runners don't look too good, but you're right. But I just think about the venues. It opens up so many more venues, like even at your county champs. Like it just opens up the venues you can host at and just makes it, more, I guess, just better for spectators, doesn't it? County champs, there's
Yeah,
very few people there. Like, and who cares at county champs if you're lapping people, or even at regional champs you're lapping people. But it just, instead of having to have this massive park somewhere, which are few and far between, you could almost host it on any like plot of fields, wooded sections.
yeah. That's it, and like
Going.
as athletes, I'm sure like a lot of people listening, definitely I could talk from my own experiences. Like there's the amount of times like because of cross country is just needed to like tag on some loop. I've just been running for like a mile out along a football field for no reason essentially. Whereas like there's a nice section of the course that you do a little bit, but they're like, well, we need to like give them like a K here. So you just run straight out into the wind and then do a loop and come straight back just to kind of add on. But realistically, for the course, for the athlete, for the spectator, it's
Yeah.
not really great, is it? So I think that's only a good thing. But I do think that the point he makes is an important one about this lap thing, and it is sometimes it is a bit of a touchy subject in our sport. In that, I think one of the best things about it is that we see. Say Liverpool, for example, you see some of the best in the world, perhaps like if you're talking about Emil Caress, or definitely one of the best in Europe over cross country, and you see him running against someone just like taking part in their league match, like that is brilliant. But at the same time, there's a time and a place to have elite only kind of events, and I think for me that's how we attract other people out who haven't kind of done cross country or running throughout their whole lives. You haven't just been athletics fans, because if you kind of you're a new fan and you go somewhere and you see, you're like, oh yeah, this is the national standard of athletics. Yet you see people who maybe aren't kind of look at like your national caliber athletes. I do think it takes away sometimes from the elite end of the sport, and it almost takes away from how elite some of the best people are at these events. Like you wouldn't see it in other sports. I think sometimes it can be
Mm.
our detriment as well.
I agree. I think if you're stumbling across the park and you see, Mohammed come flying by, you're like, whoa, what is this I'm watching? But then if you see a load of men just sort of plodding in some mud, you kind of go, oh, like this is Sunday League. You're not going to hang around and watch a Sunday League game,
Yeah,
are you? But if you see some, people could tell. They can tell just like we can as well. So I do think it's good to drive that as well, man. Um, so should we move on to previewing, the athletes that are going to do this event?
yeah. Let's get our teeth stuck in. So start list, Matt, because Eamon seems really excited. He's obviously been seeing the entries come through as they do, and I think it's really kind of important to note that some of these entries come from like directly through the cross challenge, but also obviously these international teams as well. So we should see some good athletes. Matt, let's talk us through the kind of the top names.
Well, look, on the women's, there is actually some really good races that we're going to see. So I think we've got the quality there, which is something that I think a couple of weeks ago we probably didn't know, didn't quite appreciate. But yeah, on the women's side, look, Team England, Phoebe Barker, Amelia Quirk, Ellie Wallace, Neve Britton Hubbard, like all these women are, your top 10 national cross, top 10, top 15 at Liverpool cross. So that's Team England. Let's have a little scroll down. We got Becca Murray doing it as well. Sarah Astin, national cross champ. She's going to be running for the South of England, believe it or not. Lauren Hall, Neve Brown, all those women were out for Team England at Elgabar last weekend, doing a cross country out there. So, on your women's side, some very strong names given it, regarding the home countries. Um, and then on the men's side, both Mohammed are doing it. And if that doesn't scream, high quality cross country, I don't know what does. I think Zach's running for England and Mohammed, believe it or not, South of England. Tomar Terragano, he's competing. You got Jeremy Dempsey as well. These are just the home nations entries, by the way. Angus McMillan, he's going to be running for Scotland. James Kingston, national cross champ. Alfie Manthorpe, GB, achieved that GB Vest Euro cross representative. Jack Gray as well. So some serious names. Hugo Milner was another one actually that I forgot to mention. Northern, he's going to run for the Northern Athletics. So people are going to need to familiarize themselves with these vests that athletes are going to be running in. But again, I think it's going to be made easy for them because there's going to be a big screen, and hopefully it's actually going to be team scores and gaps and distances and kind of plugging up the standings after each 2K loop as well. But looking at that, on that men's side, it's going to be an interesting duel between Mohammed Hamid and Hugo Milner. From Mohammed at Parley Hill, I know it's going to be a different course, but he's virtually untouchable. But Hugo Milner is in insane form, so I'm excited to see what he can do as well.
Yeah, 100%. Should be super exciting. Obviously, there's, like you mentioned, there's the big screens. Eamonn mentions in the interview, British Flex YouTube channel, they're going to stream it as well. And this is the great thing. I think access to cross country is something that, I don't know, even, I want to say, like, even like 2-3 years ago, we didn't have at all. We did not have live streams for cross country meets, even though we were in sort of 2020. But now, finally, like you said, like, let's not moan about how long it's taken, but it's here now. You're going to be able to watch it no matter where you are, even if you can't get down. But obviously, if you're in that kind of London area, I'd make sure you do get down, because I think it's definitely going to be one to watch. It's going to be beers, food, etc. Just a good day out, and I think that's what a lot of kind of the most popular sports events are. They're a day out, and not just the sport itself.
Exactly that, man. Yeah, I think we just hope, we're looking forward to seeing how this event, goes down and sends shockwaves through the athletics world. I think we were a little bit frustrated back end of the year and early year because we just hadn't heard much about it. But, actually chatting to Eamonn today, I think we're both quite reassured, and we're both kind of like, okay, this could revamp and redevelop cross country, and put something high profile post Christmas, as well, for people to get stuck into. So there you have it. That's going to take place next weekend. Races will just be, operating at that usual time, pre-lunch, and then, just after lunch for the seniors. They've got that 4K short course, as well, which I think is a nice addition. We talked about, making it is quite an elitist event. Members of the public or people who just, love running. I think having a 4K cross country in a weird way might, convert those real keen park runners to actually experience a little bit of cross country. So actually, because I coach a few clients and they'll happily do a 10K road race, but I've told them to do a cross country league match 10K, and they've hated every minute of it. I think cross country isn't for everyone, but a 4K cross country could be that nice kind of middle ground for, your people who are trying to get 10K PBs on the road, and stuff like that, and introducing them into running. And that's a nice way to introduce them to cross country as well. So be interested to see how many people actually enter that event, or wish they entered it, and to see
Well, I
how
was going
that
to say,
goes
mate,
down.
that might entice me out of retirement, for 4K cross. So we'll see. But yeah, definitely, I agree with you there, mate. I think if we can get just like the masses participating in that, and we always see it, if you have like a mass event followed by an elite event, your crowd's always so much better. Like
Yeah.
if we get kind of like a whole host of people competing in the 4K, finish, grab your beer, grab your burger, watch the elite men and women. Like that's then so much nicer than just heading to cross country race where there's nothing going on for like 6 hours. You're soaking wet and then you just go home
And
after your
yeah.
30-minute race.
Also, it gives them a little bit of context to, if you do a 4K cross and you're watching the men do 5 laps of, 10K cross, you can kind of look at the 2K split and be like, I could have kept up with the men for a lap. I could have been 2 minutes behind them for a lap, or, same for the women. So I think it gives people a little bit of context into, how fast elites are as well. So I think that's good to experience. So that's, that's next weekend. We're looking forward to it. Obviously we'll review it, and we'll watch it. And a few other races this weekend: Houston Half and Marathon. We got a few athletes. I think Philly Bowden, Rosie Edwards, Callie Thackeray's doing the half out there. Notoriously quite a quick one. I think I remember Jess Judd doing it last year. So a few people bidding for some fast times, over in Houston, and obviously Valencia as well. So plenty of results to wrap up next week, because this weekend it's kind of full fixtures backfiring, and then from next weekend there's a whole host of indoor races coming up, on the world circuit, European circuit, as well as obviously this cross country we discussed. So it's going to be a busy few months.
Yeah, definitely is, and we're obviously looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. But obviously, the main event covered in this episode, that London International Cross Country, is on Saturday, the 20th of Jan. So make sure you kind of keep your eyes peeled for that and get down if you can. But as always, thanks for listening. We'll catch you very soon.